just before I'm going to talk about, without further ado, as we know, today's discussion is about Kanban. What is Kanban? Aspects of Kanban, and of course, we're going to have a little Q&A session. If you do want to learn more about Kanban, or if you have certain questions about today's presentation. And today we have Vikram, who is going to be facilitating today's session. I'm excited to have him on here. I'm also excited to learn and also impact some knowledge as well. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Vikram. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vicky. Wow, this is a great crowd that I'm seeing. I know you people are tired after a long day's work. So I'll try to keep this session as active as possible. Okay. First things first, I want to know how many of you are on their journey to becoming a Scrum Master. You can say me in the chat or raise a, yep, Lisa, Vicky. Okay. Busola. Okay. Oh, wait. A lot of you, right? Nice. And this also gives you an opportunity to understand a new framework. Let's stick to the word framework, because when we talk in the agile world, we don't use frameworks or methods or methodology as terms because they say they restrict the usage of Scrum, right? So or Kanban. But okay, so we'll get started, right? And I'll quickly share my screen so that, okay, this is what we have. How many of you have heard Kanban before? So can someone tell what Kanban means? I mean, if you have read the definition or understood what Kanban means. So while I'm going through this, please remember there's nothing right or wrong when at least I am teaching. For me, it gives me an opportunity to have a conversation. So please feel free to speak your mind. Anyone?
So are the people raising your hand up? Are you raising to speak?
No, I think it was for the previous question I asked.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you're not raising to speak, you can go ahead and unraise your hand, so that way we can be able to see who wants to speak and then call out by that. And also, if you have answer, you can go ahead and speak up as well.
In around 1930s, 1940s, so there's this organization Toyota. They have been pioneer in bringing all these jargons to us. You might have heard Lean, Six Sigma, Green Belt, Black Belts, right? All this has predominantly evolved from the Toyota production system, famously called as TPS. Kanban also comes from there. This was implemented at their manufacturing plant so that they could actually see what is happening, what kind of work is happening. So Kanban literally translates to visualize board, right? To visualize what you're saying. It's a signboard. So whenever you're walking or you're going to a new area, a new country or a new state, you look for signboards, right? They give us directions. So that is where the Toyota system, they built this Kanban, and they said this is not going to be something where people will simply go ahead and start pushing work on someone else, right? So they created boards where um, when an item or work moves from one lane to another lane, it is to be pulled rather than being pushed onto them. So this is also called a pull kind of a system. So you'll understand what pull means when we go through the next slides. So that is where Kanban actually started its journey, and eventually at around 2000s, when I think in 2006 2007, Daniel Vacanti was someone who brought this from manufacturing into software development, right? They understood how this could be beneficial for us. So that's what happened, and that's how Kanban came into software industry, and we started using it for development projects. So next slide, I have few questions, and I want you all to tell me if these are a myth or a fact. Are you ready?
Yes.
I mean, you don't really need to have a knowledge of what Kanban really means, but just look at the question and ask yourself, is this a myth or a fact? And then I'll place the tick mark in the respective lane. So Kanban is only for maintenance or support work and is not suitable for complex product development. Anyone? Do you think it's a myth or a fact?
I say myth.
Myth.
Myth. Myth.
Myth.
Myth.
Wow. Yes, myth. Because it can be used for complex product development when you learn about how, what kind of rules, what kind of practices that gets into usage of Kanban, right? So then you'll understand that it is not just, because what happens is whenever we talk of development, we either think that it is a typical waterfall model or it is Scrum, right? And that's why we hear a lot about Scrum Masters only doing Scrum. But even if you're a Scrum Master, you can still learn Kanban, do Kanban. There's nothing wrong in it. And Kanban can be helpful in development work, not just maintenance or support work. A counter question to this is, like, do you think can Scrum be used for maintenance and support work? Myth or a fact? So the question is, can Scrum framework be used for maintenance and support work as well?
Fact.
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 Yes, yes, it can be used. Great, cool. So the next question, because I said Kanban is a signboard or a visualization board, do you think as long as you have sticky notes on the board, you are doing Kanban? Myth or a fact?
Myth.
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 Yes. The Kanban is not just sticky notes and a board. It is much more than that. There are a lot of things inside it. Cool. Kanban requires you to start with where you are now and only pursue evolutionary change. So what this means is, you are at a certain, suppose you are transforming or you are moving towards Kanban. Do you think it is used only when where you are now and only pursue evolutionary change? So which means you can only change when it is too big, like it's going to evolve into something, your organization or your work, or can we like use it whenever we want?
Myth.
I say
Okay.
myth.
I think it's a myth.
Yeah.
Myth.
Yes. So you can use Kanban whenever you want, wherever you want, and however you want. Every column on a Kanban board must have work in progress limits.
It's a fact.
Okay. Anyone to support?
Fact.
Fact.
It's a fact.
Okay. So what about backlog and done columns? Do you have work in progress limit for them?
No, you don't.
Yeah. So when it says every column on a Kanban board must have WIP limits, no, you don't. This is a very complex question, because when I was looking at it, even I felt it's a fact, but then I realized that yes, this is actually a myth. You don't want all the columns to have. So for example, if you have backlog, development done. So if you want to create a column called development done, and then I want testing to happen next, do you want testing to keep waiting till all the items within development is? So if I have a work in progress limit for development and done both, then wouldn't the testing be waiting till development is completed? So there are multiple things that happen, but yeah, this will actually fall as a myth. All right, Kanban has specific roles and events to optimize flow. So Scrum has events, right? Scrum has 5 events and 3 roles and 3 artifacts, right? 11 essentials of Scrum. Do you think Kanban has something like this? Have you heard of roles and events?
No, me.
Okay. Anybody else who thinks it's a fact? Kanban master, flow master.
Myth.
Yeah, thank you. So there you go. This is a myth. Kanban actually doesn't speak about any such things. Busalova, I think you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, all right. You can use the lower, the same button to mark it down. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so there is also like we think, why do you want to get into Kanban, right? Or why you want to do Kanban? So there are multiple reasons that people try to judge themselves with, and few of these that you see here on the left, right? We don't want to be here. Kanban is not something that you want to only use during delivery or for a certain duration, that like we do 2-week sprint or 1 month sprint. So we don't want Kanban to be like this. I mean, not that as a reason, or your request comes. So like I said, right, maintenance and support work, the requests keep coming in bombarded to you, and we think that Kanban is best suited there, and that's why we should do Kanban for that reason. No. And because there is no cadence, right? So we don't have roles, we don't have events, we don't have any such thing specified in Kanban, but that doesn't mean that you can simply release at any given time of a day, or you can simply release just like that, right? Even Kanban, you need to come to a certain kind of cadences, release cycles to happen. So it shouldn't be that because it's Kanban, I can do anything whenever I want and nobody will ask me anything, right? So it's not the case. You need to have cadences for that, which supports the release cycles of your teams, then maybe your programs, your portfolios, right? So that is needed. And again, the work is, people think that it is only about services, products, or maintenance and supports. So these are all like shallow reasons to adopt Kanban. No, we don't want to do this. So why you really should be doing Kanban is you want to, if your deliveries or how do I say this? If you have deliverables, but you are unable to do it at the set cadence, right? So if I say I'm going to release every month, but I'm still seeing delays, right? Why are those delays happening? So within my lanes, within my workflow, am I encountering any blockers, any impediments, and can I visualize them, right? So if they are encountering delays, you think of Kanban. If you have unpredictable delivery, right, your deliveries are becoming unpredictable and you want to move towards predictability, think of Kanban. Yeah, then that eventually helps you get better, right, and keep your promises of whatever your say-do is about, right? So this is why you should choose Kanban, and I'll talk a lot about this in the next slides. When we talk about optimization and maximization, right? So I'll talk about this there. Okay. Time to get into presentation mode. So this is the definition of Kanban, where we say it's a strategy to optimize your flow of value through a process that, like I said, Kanban is a pull-based system. It was developed as a pull-based system, not a push-based system, and it is all about visualization. So Kanban is a strategy for optimizing the flow of value, and we need a process, right? Process that uses a visual and pull-based system. So and we follow 3 practices. These 3 practices very important. You can have more, but these 3 are essential practices that Kanban needs. Defining and visualizing your flow, actively managing the items in a workflow, and improving workflow. So when we talk about Scrum, we say 3 plus 3 plus 5 is enough. We need 3 artifacts, 3 roles, and 5 events. Similarly, these 3 practices, essential, 3 practices and 4 metrics, which I'll talk about later in the slides, are essential for you to start implementing Kanban, right? And yeah, okay, sorry, I need to clear this. Okay, so 3 practices, these 3 practices will help you optimize the value of, sorry, the flow of the value. So even in Scrum, we talk about value delivery, right? And so does Kanban. We want to provide value to our customers. We don't simply want to work on any random task or any random requirement that comes in. So, okay, I don't know what's wrong. Yeah, so these 3 practices define something called as Kanban system. If you're doing this, you are into Kanban, and people, like whoever is involved in doing these 3 practices, are called Kanban team or Kanban system member. So that helps everyone be on a page. And when we talk about flow, so if you see it, flow is important aspect of Kanban, integral part of Kanban. And it says, if you ask me what flow is, so flow is basically the movement of potential value into your system. So if you have multiple lanes, what kind of value is flowing from left to right is important, very important. And the strategy that Kanban uses is to optimize this value. You're optimizing this value. Okay, I cannot annotate here. Yeah. Okay, you need to optimize this value by optimizing the flow. So we'll understand what flow is, what value delivery is going to be, and what really optimizing means, right? So in simple terms, Kanban is a strategy to optimize the flow of value through a process which is visual and pull. What is visual? How do we create a pull-based system is what we'll see next. And these three practices, essential. You can have more, again, like I said, you can have more practices. But these three are essential, key practices. And these three, if you're doing this, you're good with Kanban. Any questions here?
I'm
Okay.
assuming you're going to show us or help us understand how do we practice those three practices.
Yes, I am. Because every practice has, again, certain set of items or some rules that you need to follow. We'll show how that is done. Okay, can someone tell me, you might have heard this word, right? Maximization a lot. Can someone tell me what is maximization and how is it different from optimization? Anyone wants to give it a go?
Quantity and optimize could be quality.
Yeah, in a way, but so if I want to use my capacity of work is 8 hours per day, for example, right? But I'm only doing 5 hours per day or 6 hours per day. Do you think I am at my maximized level? It's when my manager looks at me and he says, Vikram, you're not at, you're just doing 5 hours every day. I want you to maximize. So it is a quantity.
Right.
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 And when does optimization come into play then? Why isn't my manager not telling me, Vikram, why are you not doing optimized work? Why don't you optimize your work?
Quality comes into play, right?
Yes, quality comes into play. And then how does quality matter is through three factors in Kanban. So we talk of three factors. Okay, so this is my square and I want to maximize it. So this is the maximum it can go, right? Because it has a set limit, right? 8 hours of work every day is a set limit for me. And I cannot go beyond it, because if I go beyond it, then I'll have to charge extra. So my manager wouldn't allow. This is the maximum I can go. I can maximize my Chrome browser window only to the width of my width that fits my screen ratio, right? So that is maximization. But when we say optimization, right, and we talk about Kanban system, first factor is effectiveness. So effectiveness is about how quickly you give what your customer is asking you for and when you can give it, right? So it's being, so if I go to a pizza store and I say maybe Domino's, because Domino's is famous here in India. I go to a Domino's store and say I want a cheese pizza, a basic cheese pizza. Let's say I don't want to complicate it, and just a few toppings of some meatballs or something, and give me oregano and chili flakes as sides, and I want extra ketchup on top of it, right? So that is what I'm asking as a customer, right? And imagine you get something which didn't have meatballs at all in it, because I specified for meatballs, right? Do you think that person is being effective of the work that is being given, or the delivery that is happening? Do you think the pizza delivery guy is being fair to me? Do you think is it an effective work system that he has performed?
Do you mind repeating the question, please?
So I go to a pizza store and I order for a pizza, right? And I give some specifications that it is a medium sized, it is to be filled with cheese, it has to have meatballs toppings on it, and I need some extra, tomato ketchup on top of it or as a side, and then I want chili flakes and oregano along with it. And he just gives me a basic cheese pizza. He forgets to top it with the extra ketchup and the extra meatballs that I asked. So do you think that the pizza guy was being effective while doing so?
Well, first of all, he has ketchup on the pizza, so I'm going to go ahead and say no. But no, he didn't maximize the potential. The pizza could have had a whole lot more potential if he put a lot more ingredients into it.
Yes, and that's why I didn't want to complicate it. So I just said my requirement is very simple. Right. So do you think he has been effective while delivering the pizza to me?
No.
Exactly. So you give customer what they want and when they want. And I said I want it right now. I mean, right now he has to take time, but I'm here to have. So it's a dine-in. It's not a takeaway, right? So I'm waiting and I didn't get what I wanted. I'm not a happy customer now, right? So effectiveness talks about what you are giving to your customer when the customer is asking for it, right? So this is one factor. The next one is efficiency, right? So efficiency is, it deals with the economic values of the work that is happening, right? So at the same store, if I'm using maybe 3 people to simply deliver one pizza, right, and I'm keeping my other customers waiting, do you think I, as the owner of pizza store, am I doing justice to my work or my team?
I say no.
Yeah. So I'm not being efficient there. So I need to know how to allocate my my developers, my testers, my architects within my workflow, right? How efficiently can I use them? How efficiently can I use my money in delivering value to my customer, right? And then the third and most important part is predictability, right? So in the earlier slide, if you remember, we talked about being unpredictable, right? If we are being more unpredictable, then how can we become predictable? So moving towards predictability becomes another component for working in a Kanban system. So if you see, while they're not effective, and even if they are delivering me within, maybe if it's 30 minutes of time, for example, can I say that they're giving me good quality work? So I cannot be, so what I'm trying to say is I cannot be predictable of getting good quality work or getting the thing that I asked for, right? And then if they become effective and if they become efficient, right, they are giving me something that I can consume, something that is of value for me. And eventually, if they continue doing that, I can say, and I'm sure that when I get into Domino's, I will get what I'm asking for in the set time, right? So we become, I mean, the process becomes predictable, the work becomes predictable eventually. So these are like 3 major components that are needed, and you need to maintain a sustainable balance between these 3 to create optimization to do this. So in Kanban, we say, why we say optimizes, we don't want to maximize. So even if I say the pizza delivery guy is working the whole of 30 minutes, right? He's maximizing his limit of work, but still he's not effective, or still they're not effective. Still my team's efficiency is not great, and my predictability has gone wrong. I mean, there's no point in maximizing efforts. So you see how you can bring in a balance between how effective you are, how efficient you are, and how predictable you are. So that is why in Kanban system, we talk about optimization and not maximization. I mean, at times maximization helps when it comes to individual, but as a team, you need to optimize your flow of value.
So question, we're
Yes.
using the pizza example, or in a life scenario, what would be the best way to optimize value?
So first thing is improve your effectiveness here, right? So now one of you becomes the owner of that pizza store, and you see, I am not giving what my customer is asking. So I would start making improvements there, and then I'll check if I have the right kind of resources. I don't know if the person who was cooking the pizza for me is actually capable of doing so, right? So I need to identify if that is happening or not. And first, I will try to bring a balance here, get the right kind of developers, right kind of expertise into my kitchen. Only then I can do this, right? So once I have found my balance here, and I'm giving them the right kind of work, so my effectiveness improves. And as these both are improving, my predictability improves. So when I'm getting the right kind of person who knows how the who has the right knowledge to knead a dough, to create the pizza in the right shape. So if I'm asking for a medium-sized pizza, I should know what kind of quantity or need to be going in to make that size of dough, right? What amount of cheese needs to go in. So that is someone an expert can do, right? So I get the right kind of efficiency, and then build the right kind of effectiveness, give my customers what they're asking, and on time, and when they are asking, right? What and when. So that will improve my effectiveness, and eventually the entire process becomes predictable. So if you are out on a drive and you are hungry, you would know that this pizza store is where I want to go, because I will get food on time, or I'll get the expected food on time. Whatever I'm asking, I'll get. It's not like some other ABC pizza store, but this is the XYZ pizza store. Does this help answer your question?
So I guess to put it in words, and also comparing with Scrum and Kanban, right? It's kind of how in Scrum, you have developers or team working on, they might even be working on multiple functionality in that sprint, right? So it's more of not necessarily assign stories to a developer, but more of focus on having specialized and specific skill set work on a specific functionality, because they know that functionality well. They know how to build it, and they can build it with quality. Whereas Scrum teams can work on any functionality, and that means more time for them to actually learn. And that means more time for error or mistakes that could possibly happen. Whereas Kanban kind of focus more on specialized, the work, you can do the work, and focus on that, right? So that way you can
Yeah.
build quality versus if we're talking about quantity.
Yes, that is one aspect of it. I mean, we can look at it that way, but then it makes Kanban rigid. It says, I only want expert people in here to do my work, but
Not
that's not the case.
cross-functional.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So it is efficiency also means that if you have a resource, like for example, I'll go back to the same person, same delivery guy who gave me the pizza, and initially maybe he was not trained. I mean, I might not have the economy or the money to hire the expert, like he's charging me huge, right? And then I'll see how I can use him to best deliver my work, right? Do they need training hours? Or are they able to, like, is there a communication barrier? Are they able to understand what the customer is asking for, right? So we can always improve. There are multiple ways to do it. It starts from what context you are in, actually, right? So what problem you're trying to solve eventually. So that's where you get at. Kanban is not rigid. It doesn't say you should be like this. If you have a problem and you want to get out of it, if you think Kanban helps you, go ahead and use Kanban. If you think Scrum helps you, go ahead and use Scrum. But why are we doing Kanban is to optimize the flow of value. And yeah, so that's about this. And so was I able to answer your question, Vicky?
Sure. Does anyone have any question? Lisa Lawrence, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, quick question. I don't know if this is outside the frame of work, but can you actually use Jira? Can you use Kanban on Jira?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So Jira, I mean, again, I'll take quick 1 minute. When you're creating a new project, it asks you if you want a Kanban project or a Scrum project or a normal waterfall project. So Jira has that ability to do Kanban as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if no questions, we'll move next to the next slide. Yeah. So we have been talking about flow and so I want someone to tell how their workflow looks like. So I have this lane. I mean, it need not be like this, but we can change it. So someone who is a Scrum Master right now, just want to know what your workflow is. Anyone can come up.
Okay, I can help.
Yes.
So we have to do.
Okay, you have to do here. Okay.
And then in progress.
Okay. Okay.
Code review.
So do you have sub columns within in progress or it's just in progress?
No, no subcolumns.
Okay. Code review. Yep.
Then there is validation.
Okay.
And then done.
Okay. A very simple workflow. So in Kanban, we talk about workflow and work items. So workflow is something that that defines this this part that you see here. And workflow items are the kind of tasks that you have here, right? So have you come across a situation, Grace, now that you're talking, where you have picked, like, 30 items, for example, here, and you're only able to do like 10 or 12 here by the time you move from here to here,
Mhm.
right? So,
So like having a lot of carryovers?
yep,
Okay.
carryovers. Not always, but there must be some situation that that did this to you, or if it's not just 30, it could be, you closed 28 and then 2 of them got carried over.
Okay, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, and a lot many times it happens that we when you're new to a team and you want to go be that aggressive go-getter, it happens that we are taking too many cards into play, and then the flow gets blocked somewhere, right? So in between here, how do you manage your blockers, or how do you identify any dependencies? Do you have a way to do that, or do you track it somewhere else?
Um, so let me think. So what we do when there is a blocker is that we flag that specific ticket.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just flag it, and so it will like highlight that ticket on Jira.
Okay.
And then like, during our stand-up, we know what item we probably need to discuss in the parking lot. Right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense when you're using Jira.
Yep.
Yeah, so Jira has a quality where you can actually flag the item, and it tells that it could define anything. It could say that there's a blocker, there's a dependency, but yes, Jira does that, does a good job with that. But what if you say that I'm going to do like only 4 items here. I'm only going to do like 3 items here. Maybe just 2 items here.
Hi.
Hi, Max. I think it's Maxi.
Yes, that's Max.
Okay.
Yeah, so I also have a contribution to first the columns. I think we have a couple of columns there. In some cases, right, you have your WIP limits. So if
Correct.
you identify, so in that case, you might have WIP limits, so you can actually reduce how many number of story points a developer has to be working on at a certain time. So that's actually going to help out to reduce the number of items that you have in those swim lanes, and also for the block items as well. So you can actually create a block column, and that can also track blocked items instead of you just probably in Azure DevOps, you might not have opportunity to, have a certain thing to say you're blocking that story. You can still create like a blocked column to actually identify that block item as well. So.
Yep. Yes, and that's really good point, right? I mean, so every organization, or every team has their own way of defining this workflow, right? So we just saw 2 great examples here, right? So this definition of I think he's asking something. I don't know.
Now?
Okay, all right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Amazia.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you. So defining workflows and work items are a part of how you actually visualize your work, right? So this becomes very important while you're starting your journey using Kanban. So you need to understand what are your workflows. See, sometimes what happens is when you are in progress, people have tendency to draw a line between, and they say development and unit test here itself, and then create one more line and say done, right? So the idea is to when you do work in progress limits, it helps you limit the work that actually flows. So it helps you create focus on what kind of value is being delivered, right? So I think Maxi, like you said, that it helps create that focus when you're creating this with limits, right? So I have a question. Is this like to do in progress code review validation done enough as a workflow, or I want more? So my done is not here, my done is happening here, but I'm doing a lot many things in here, and in here as well.
So are you asking if it's not enough, or if what my suggestion in case in terms of how many workflows or how many columns needs to be there?
Mhm.
So looking at this, just to make it very clear, probably for others. So in my own situation, right? So what we do have is probably to do in progress, in review, right?
Okay.
Probably where the raise the PRs and stuff. So after that, so two ways: in progress, dev complete. In review, in progress, to do in progress, dev complete, code review, which is review and testing. So test and also resolved and done. So it all depends on the organization or the environment, right? So like most of my teams, when they have resolved stories, that is when the PM or the PO comes in to confirm certain items, right? And see if it met criteria, and we can actually identify our definition of done before they themselves might accept that stories. So that's another example that you can also have. So if that answers your question as well.
Yes. So all I'm trying to say is to have this workload defined only as much as your team can actually take, and have only value items flow through this, right? So sometimes it happens that so when I'm doing my in-depth review or code review, I identify that there is something that needs to be completed before it comes to code review. So go ahead and create a column, right? But what happens is I am increasing my wait time for that item to move further, right? So if I'm in my review here and I'm doing something before the review completes, I'm still delaying its delivery, right? Even if I'm doing it in a shorter cycle with my WIP limits, more the number of lanes, slower the work or the value will flow, right? So have optimized lanes so that you can optimize the flow of that value, right? So that's where I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Any questions on this one? Okay.
So what would be the best way to optimize value and increase workflow on the columns?
There is no one set way, Vicky, per se, but I would say start with the context that you are at, right? If you have a problem, if you have if you have these many lanes, and if you see that my value is slowed down, right? So if you see that review is taking longer, right? If review is taking longer, you will know to ask right kind of questions, right? If my card is staying here for long, and a lot of cards are coming and waiting here, right? So you will know what needs to be done, right? And again, like I said, it is about the context that you are in. Like Maxi had a different kind of a workflow, right? And I think it was Lisa who talked before, who gave the initial
Grace.
Grace, yeah, sorry. So yeah, so grace has a different context, right? So whatever context you are in, right, start from there is what I would say. And understand if your value delivery is, see, sometimes it happens that you're giving things way too faster, right? They're flowing really fast. And are your customers able to consume it? Right? So then you might want to add something in between. But if you think it is very slow and it is waiting a lot in any one of these columns, you will know to check. So when we get at metrics, you will understand that there are like 4 metrics that Kanban talks about, and every metric can help you ask these questions to your team. Does it help you, Vicky?
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions here? Anyone? Okay. Yep. So now we come to our practices. Like I said, we had 3 practices: defining, visualizing the workflow. And this is the first practice, that how you want to define and visualize your workflow. So this has like 6 principles, I would say. So the first one is define individual units of value. So these are your work items. So if you remember, so this is my workflow, and then this that you see, whatever item that you're working on, it could be a requirement, an enhancement request, anything that is being worked upon is your work item. And define the individual units of value. So what kind of work is this, right? So this is the first principle. So define what value is this item going to deliver. Okay. The next one is define when items start and finish. So in Kanban, we have a concept called start and finish. So you can say when this item starts, like a play button, and when it's going to stop. So what happens is, so coming back to the same pizza example, right? So I come in as a customer and I say, I gave my pizza specifications, and then there are steps, right? First, you need to knead the dough, and then you flat it out, and then you put some toppings on it, right? You put the cheese on it, and then you put the toppings on it, and then it gets into bake, or so we have some steps. We have this workflow defined, right? So when can I say that the dough preparation got started here, right? When can I say that this is done or completed into a whole pizza? So it is when it comes out of the oven, right? So this is where my work on the pizza gets done, right? So like this, I can create start and stop points in my workflow. Any questions here on this one? Having start and finish items. So defining your start and finish is also will also help you visualize this workflow very clearly.
Do you define this on the board? What do you mean by define?
Yes. So there's one more principle that comes here, which says have explicit policies. So when I said defining on workflow is to, let me, yeah. So I have my columns here, right? And I have my dev, I have my testing, and then I have my, so again, like within dev also, I might have, development done, testing, I have testing done. So suppose there is an item that comes in and it says, I want to build some kind of a page, and it has to deal with the architecture of the entire process. So this might start here and will go through the entire phase and might end here. Right? Okay. But then if I want to like, okay, let me give another example. Okay. I'm developing a calculator application. All right. So this is how my application need to look like. And it is a web-based application. It has to have all the numeric keys, the basic functionalities of addition, subtraction, and multiplication, right? And an equal to sign, right? So this is like my basic level of calculator application. So in this, I create these lanes here. Okay. And I have my to do. So first one says I want to create a wireframe, or I want to create the interface. Okay, so that is my requirement. Interface is my requirement. Okay, and then I want to create the numeric keys. So numeric keys are my second requirement. Then I want to create the add functionality, right? So if this is my requirement, and my interface item will actually flow from here till end, right? Because I want this interface to be there always. And this is just, suppose I'm doing it in a cadence of 2 weeks, and let us sprint 2 weeks of sprint. The story of the interface story will still continue for multiple sprints. But if I just want to create numeric keys, it might start here and end in the sprint itself, right? So like this, I can create start and stop. So when I do this, it tells me when my work will stop, so that I can take the next work. That is defining start and finish items. So when do they start and when do they finish? Does this help you?
Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, let me define how the work item flows. Yeah.
Maxi has his hands up.
Oh, okay. Hey, Maxi.
Yeah, so I guess you actually explained on that part, but I have a question, right?
Yep.
From what you showed all the in terms of start and finish date. So are you talking the start and finish time, or you're talking about now? Is it per work item or per if you have any iteration at all? So is it per iteration or per work item?
It is actually per work item. I'm not getting a good example to. So
yeah,
if you say security, right? If you want to do a security check, so within your workflow, let's say, okay, so let's say this is your workflow here, right? And you will not start maybe testing, right? You will not start testing till the development is completed, right? So I want to know, when the item comes into development, what is my start definition towards it, and the done definition to it. So I can only test when the development is completed, right? So my items will get into start here, right? And then if I want to add a security review, right? So I cannot do security review on these items that are here in the backlog or in the to-do list. I can only start when they come here.
Okay.
So the start and stop definitions can actually be applicable for one item, multiple items, could be for one workflow itself, multiple workflows. If you have multiple workflows, suppose if you are at a portfolio level of Kanban, and then you are doing multiple workflows, multiple teams, interdependent teams. So sometimes there's team A who is working on addition functionality, then there is team B who is working on a new, maybe the equals functionality, right? I cannot equal when I don't have the variables put in, right? So I'll be waiting on them. So there will be a dependency. When will my work start and when will my work be done?
Okay.
Does this help, Maxi?
Yeah, it does help, because I was just trying to, for whoever is on the call, just to because since you're talking about start and finish, most, I guess, probably stories or work items that comes in on Kanban, if
Right.
you're discussing about estimating those items, right? Because in that case, you can predict or just assume or estimate how much time it's going to take. But I was trying to know if it's related to, yeah, so that's why I was asking.
It helps doing that. It helps doing that. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So these are when we talk about these 6 items that you'll be seeing, right? It is the entire team needs to sit and discuss on this. So there might be someone who is taking the initiative, the Kanban team members, right? They are the ones who are going to define this, because so think of this like sort of a working agreement, right? And in pure simple terms, these are working agreements that the whole team sits together and builds for themselves. Define how the work item itself flows. So going from the same example, how your work item, so your work item is actually flowing through this. Define them, and then define how to control work in progress between start and finish. And then you have explicit policies, and then you have SLEs. So work in progress limits, very important. We have seen when you are moving from, okay, again getting back to the pizza guy, right? So if my pizza and if I have maybe only 2 people working on the first level, where they have to take the order and start working on it. So if 2 people can only knead 2 doughs into the cake, onto the bread, right? And if I keep giving them more than what they can actually take, right? Do you think will they be, first thing, be able to do justice, and will this item generate any value in my flow? I just have 2 people working on it, and I'm giving like maybe 6 or 7 items to work upon. Do you think they will be able to deliver anything to us at end of the workflow?
No.
Right. So that is why work in progress limits, they actually help us tackle with such kind of situations. And when you do that, it will help us create that pull system which we had been talking about, right? So defining the control of WIP limits between, so this is your start, and suppose this is your start and this is your finish. It helps us create a pull kind of a system, while so that we are not pushing too much work on them, because now I know that this team can only take 2 at max, and once they are done, then the next team who is going to add the toppings is going to pull it from them, right? So suppose if there is just 1 person working here, right? that person can only take one at a time. And once this is done, then the next person who is going to put the uh, uh, dough in oven is going to pull from here. So when you limit your work in progress based on the kind of capacity that you have, you help develop this pull system, and in turn develop the focus of the item that they are working upon. So I know for sure that there will be one item that will be delivered at end of the workflow, right? So work in progress limits, very important. It becomes important to help create the pull system and create focus. So two important points here. And then you create explicit policies. So I was talking about these policies, right? These policies can be anything, like these are your working agreements on the whole. These will get noted somewhere. So if you're using Confluence for your team, you can put everything in that page and say, these are our explicit policies of how we are going to define our work items. How are we going to define the start and finish of the items, define the flow itself, define work in progress limits, and then service level expectations. SLE is something. So if I want to know how long is it going to take, right? When can I expect my first pizza out, right? So I'm asking Maxi, maybe Maxi, when can I expect my first pizza out?
Yeah, you're asking me when you expect your first pizza out?
Yeah. How long is it going to take?
Let me say, so from do we have
start to
any
finish.
criteria we using to finish? Oh, okay. I think your first pizza probably needs to get to when it's done, when it's in done state. So it should be ready by that time.
Yeah. So can you give time, like 15 minutes,
Okay.
30 minutes,
Yeah,
45
let's
minutes?
say probably 30 minutes.
Okay. So Maxi says 30 minutes, right? So what SLE means within this group of workers, right? When can a first pizza get delivered is approximately within 30 minutes. I can at least have one pizza, right? So that is my service level expectations. This is different from agreements. Agreement is something that you do with the customer. So within the team, Maxi says the first pizza will be ready by 30 minutes, but then the pizza store says to the customer that it might take 35 minutes. So 35 minutes is like the SLA for me as a customer. But within the team, I can have expectations that when can I, like, how much time or how much percentile will within how much percentile will this work be delivered, right? So if the consistency grows, right, and if you're able to deliver every pizza within 30 minutes, I can say that around 100% of pizza, I mean, the work can be delivered within 30 minutes. So I'm confident, like my confidence level is of 100%. So that would become my SLE. But for my customer, I'm still like saying, my agreement is of 35 minutes. So that's the difference between expectations and agreements. This is a very huge topic, and I might not be able to cover up in the set time. But if we ever want to do another session, Vicky, maybe I can take the teams through what SLEs are, and we can actually do a simulation as well. I think
I'll hold you on that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. Alexander.
Yes.
Yes. Quick one, Vikram. In terms of the SLE, right? Where are these conversations being held? Like, do you guys have like a designated meeting that you talk about all this in terms of the estimate, the time, the limit of how things will move on?
Yeah. So you can, if I have to talk in terms of Scrum and how Kanban helps in doing Scrum. So you can do this during a sprint planning or during a sprint refinement sessions as well. Otherwise, like I said, if you are only doing Kanban, so you have Kanban team members. They are the ones who are going to decide upon this. So Kanban team member is anybody or anyone who is responsible for this workflow, or for your entire board or your team. So they are going to set, you can set any kind of meeting as just say an explicit policy meeting, right? So there's no specific event as such, Yusuf, in Kanban, but whatever the Kanban team members feel they are comfortable with, they go ahead and schedule a time. But again, it should not be like, you can get up any day. You need to create a cadence for that. See what really works. So you might say we can connect every 3 weeks or every 1 month to see if we are doing good with this SLEs, with our explicit policies, and then you will also keep. So the third practice is to improve and work on your definition of workflow. So that also needs to happen, and we'll get there.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions here?
Yes, I do have a question. Thanks for
Yes.
your presentation. At what point do you think a team, like if you retrospect, like during retrospective, one of the team members says, "Hey, I don't think I really want to do. I don't think the team should be, using the Scrum board and everything, and they want to move over to Kanban." What kind of teams would you recommend to switch over to Kanban? Like, my question is based off of what kind of projects, like, is it
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So thank you for the question, Arya. And if you remember the myth and fact exercise that we did, right? So there is no such say where I can tell that only certain set of work can happen here. So only manufacturing work can be supported in Kanban, right? Or only software development can happen using Scrum, right? The understanding is this: if you are seeing both Scrum and Kanban, they actually go hand in hand, because they practices, if you use them rightly, they will help each other. But if you ask me when to use Kanban and when to use Scrum, there is no right answer to that. If your context says that there is too much of too much of unpredictability, right? And my team's efficiency is not done. So again, I'm coming back to optimization. So if you feel that there is a need to optimize within your team, you can probably come towards Kanban at that point of time. You want to improve your effectiveness, efficiency, and predictability, bring in Kanban at that point of time. But what I would suggest is, if you are doing Scrum already, try to identify improvement areas within Scrum, because making a shift from Scrum to Kanban will be very difficult at that point of time. Does it help you, Ade?
Yes, it does. Yeah, thank you.
And also, I would also help just to add something to it,
Yes.
right? So if you have a team that is supporting a certain application, probably a customer-facing application, or within your organization, right? You can always have so let me say HR, for example, or accounting department. So if I have a data analytics team where they actually have to create dashboards for the CEOs, making sure data are available. So those requests or those tickets always come in, right? Such work can actually go as in Kanban, because it comes and it goes. So it comes as it goes, because you're trying to fix that specific problem, or you're trying to have those functionalities out there for your customers. So you're not trying to plan ahead. It's uncertain. Like I think Victoria also said that you can't predict. It can just come at any time. So if that's the kind of project or kind of work that your team is focused on, it will be good for them to actually do Kanban than waiting for 2 weeks or 1 week to actually put out an increment. So because if your CEO is said, okay, I want to access my bank account, or I want to access something within this organization, and I need to get this data out of it, right? You won't wait until 2 weeks to let him see that, right? So such items can be items you can have for Kanban teams as well. So more of support and more of an unpredictable item. Okay, if that helps as well.
So to be more specific, I think it would also mean like dealing with incidents at your workplace. Yeah. But what I typically recommend is, if you can do both kind of work in Scrum and you can do both kind of work in Kanban as well. So if even within Scrum, you can deliver items that actually need not be, to be waited for, right? So you don't have to wait on them. But yes, a lot of even my organization does that. So we have Scrum boards to do development work, and then we have Kanban boards to deal with incidents. So yes, that can happen. But you will not move out completely from Scrum, or you will not move out completely from Kanban. You will be doing some kind of work in both the spaces. And I think someone raised hand. Okay, any more questions here? And Maxi, thank you for adding on. I mean, that was a good insight here, right? So if no further questions, we'll move to the next practice. Okay, so practice number 2 is actively managing the items in workflow. So we have defined our explicit policies, we have defined our workflows, but now you need to manage your items in workflow. So first one is try to we might, so like in the earlier example we were talking, right? How do we deal with the blockers or dependencies within your workspace, right? So we said that, I think I'm sorry, if I remember, it was Grace, right? Grace said that they flag the item, right, which helps us identify that it is a blocker at that point of time, but work on them actively. Sometimes what happens is we are blocked. So my again, going back to the same pizza example, the person who wants to add toppings on the pizza cannot add the toppings because the pizza has not rolled over to him yet, right? So why? Then we'll ask question. We'll go back to the cheese guy who is adding cheese. So he might say that, cheese is not available right now, and that's why I'm waiting. So this is kind of a blocker, right? So if you keep on waiting for your cheese to come in, you are delaying, right? And you simply cannot move any further because your work gets piled up in the previous lane, right? So you need to tackle this blocker actively. So this could happen in real life situation many times. Like, so when people are working on multiple projects, they might miss out working. I mean, when you're working, everything becomes important and every delivery becomes important. So one person is working on, suppose, one application here, then and is also working on another board, but suppose his or her presence is needed here and they are not available, right? That's a blocker. There is a functionality that needs to be developed here, but this functionality is dependent on some functionality here, and their functionality has an internal dependency on maybe the networking team, because they have not created the server spaces. So these are all blockers. You need to identify and actively work on them as fast as possible. So that helps in managing your workflow. Then do not let your items age. So sometimes we feel we are taking more work, right? And there is something that has a dependency, and the card stays in progress or even in backlog, right? Even if it is in backlog, it will age as in it is still. So this was supposed to be completed maybe in 5 days, but now I am on 5th day. There's still no update on what is happening on this, right? So I'm letting it age. People might talk to their customers, talk to their stakeholders, and see if they want to age it further, but that will not be an ideal situation to be in. Sometimes customer might agree for once or twice, but the third time they will go crazy, and they will not let you. I have seen a situation where uh, we were just waiting for the network team to or the, here we call tech ops team, to create the server and give us, but they couldn't create server, not because they 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 did not have the right kind of talent, but they just did not have time. They were all hands full. There were multiple teams, various other teams asking, and everyone is telling that this is a priority work for us, right? And they couldn't prioritize my team's work, and then it got escalated, and then we had to involve people. I mean, it is such a simple thing, but you know, the item is getting aged, and as it ages, people will start noticing it, right? And escalations can happen in any way. So do not let your work item age unnecessarily. And work items age is one of the metrics as well in Kanban. And then avoid piling of work, right? So like I said, do not take work that is not needed, that is not adding value. And then controlling your WIP. So at times we say, you know, I have set a certain WIP limit and I'm going to stick to it, going to continue working on it. But over a period of time, you also need to understand or have a discussion that do we want to increase the WIP limit or do we still want to decrease it, right? So you need to actively do these 4 things. So this is the second practice of managing the items within your workflow. Any questions here? Okay, I think this was straight. And the last one is continuously improve your workflow to achieve optimization. Right. So we define our workflows in here, right? But once we have done it, does not mean that you continue staying there. You also need to see, I mean, if you're doing good, how do we go to better? So this is like doing sprint retrospective in Scrum. So this is the third practice. You just continue to better yourself, better your workflows. Some maybe, you know, after 5 or 6 months of work, you might realize that, you know what, we don't want the review part here, as in, you know, not a specific code review, but can we, if the code review is being managed in the previous lane, we can remove this lane, reduce it. So it means you're reducing your wait time also. So, and then you might feel that, okay, my team strength is increasing or decreasing. Based on that, I might identify opportunities to change my work in progress limits itself, right? Change, because if a lane gets added, you also need to know when your start and stop needs to happen, right? Start, stop needs to happen, when your WIP can be changed, right? So all these things need to be retrospect at a certain cadence, which is understood and defined by the Kanban team members. Any questions here, team? So, okay. Okay, if no more questions, yep. Any questions? I think I was hearing something.
No questions.
Okay, thank you, Maxi. Okay, then that concludes the 3 practices and brings us to measures. So this is a typical Kanban board. Okay, and I have my work in progress limits, right? Can you say what is this is distant? Okay, yeah. What all items are work in progress? So this is different. This is work in progress. This is not work in progress limit. The work in progress limits are here, the 4, the 3, both these twos. But what all items here do you think are or fall in work in progress category just by looking at this board? Can someone tell? Anybody? Wild guess.
Testing.
Okay.
What's the question
Again?
again, please? What's the question?
I said just by looking at this board, can you tell what is work in progress? What all items fall in work in progress?
Development.
Right.
Okay.
Testing.
Okay. So, yes, it is actually from here to here. All these items are in WIP. Because my work actually started here and it is ending here. Right? So this is my start and this is my end. So work in progress is all the items on your board, and as understood by the Kanban team members, is all the items between the start and the done. So if you see, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have work in progress as 10 right now. Any questions here? Yes, I mean, this is a work that is in progress. This is a work that is in progress. So this is like the overall in progress. So it's not just in progress as a lane, but it is the overall work of the team that is in progress. So if my team is doing analysis, then yes, it is analysis also in progress. If I add more lanes in between, and then I have cards here and here, even they are in progress because it's not done yet. It's not here. Any questions on this one? Or anything on this? Is this clear? Does this help? So this is one of the most important measures. So when can you use work in progress? You are in your daily Scrum, and you can show them, you know what, team, we have 10 items in WIP, and we are like closing to a sprint. Can we focus? Okay, so this is work in progress. The next item is work item age. Can someone tell? And I think I have explained as well about aging in the previous slide. What is work item age? in this?
So let me help answer that question. So that's going to be how long that item has been sitting in a specific column.
High five. Yes. Yes, that's right. So not just specific column, but suppose this item maybe is has traveled, right? So because it is in sign off, it has traveled from here till here, right? So it might, so let us name this as A. Okay, item A was in to do for like 2 days, and then it was done for 1 more day. So which means it aged for 3 days, right? 2 plus 1, and from done it got moved to development to do, and it was here for maybe like another 3 days, which means it has aged for 6 now, 6 days, and then it got moved to done, and it got immediately moved to testing as well. So it is still 6 days here, and in testing it was there for another 3 days, which means it aged for 9 days, and then it came to sign off. It was there for maybe just 1 day, right? Which means when this item gets moved to done, it has aged for 10 days, right? Is this I mean, is this clear? Like so work item age is the amount of time the card spends between these lanes, between start and finish, or before it gets moved to done, right? And if it is staying in sign off for 2 more days, then this will become 11, right? Does this help, team? I mean, any questions here? Yusuf, I see you have raised hand.
Yeah, would that explain the metric lead time? Or no?
No, I think lead time is for everything, like even before it gets considered here, and then it gets here, or if you have release and yeah, so basically even before it came into to do. So lead time will be much more than that.
Sorry, I was gonna ask a question. Yeah, I was pretty much gonna add to that. Yeah, the lead time starts from when you start to create the card from the backlog. But it can't, the work item you said, isn't it similar to cycle time? Because I know once the card gets to
it becomes cycle time once it gets to done.
Okay. So
yes.
So right now it's when it gets to sign off. That's when it's work item.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. You nailed it, Arya.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So once the item gets moved to done, it becomes cycle time of that certain card, of this A card. But before it is moved to done, and if it is aging, right? So if it is aging in sign of itself, then it's a serious concern. Why is it taking too long in sign off, right? So that's why we say we do not want items to age a lot. And sometimes what happens is even within development, right? To move from analysis to development, it took us 3 days, right? And in development, it is staying for maybe like 5 days or 6 days, right? We need to ask them some serious questions. Are there any blockers? Are there some serious blockers that are not letting you go forward, right? Or are you working on multiple items at the same time, right? Or you are working on multiple projects. Are you being efficiently used here, right? So a lot of questions can be asked, and work item age can also be another input during your daily stand-ups or daily scrums that you do within your team to ask them, why is this card aging so much? Any questions on work item age? Okay, we'll move to the next metric. which is throughput. Can someone tell what a throughput is? So we saw work in progress. So this is our work in progress, right? And we saw our work item age. So we saw that all the any card that spends as much as time within the workflow is your work item age. What could be throughput? Anyone? Wild guess, and you need not be right. Okay?
Could you say that is what work you have delivered?
Yes. Yes. And high five to that, Amasia. So it is what you have delivered in a certain unit of time. So, so for example, if I have completed 3 cards in one day, right? My throughput is 1. Or I can say within one day, how many cards got completed? So I would say 3, but my throughput is still. So this is number of cards or number of work items completed within a certain unit of time is called throughput. So I can say within one day, I'm able to deliver 3 cards. Any questions here? And is this clear?
Sorry, could you take throughput again? Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. So the throughput is number of items or work items delivered or completed within a certain unit of time. So, which means I might have completed just maybe 2 items here. I might have just completed 2 items, and that will mean that throughput is of 2 in one day. So my throughput is of 2 on day 1. On day 2, the throughput could be 3 or 4. Does it help?
The aspect that is not clear. I thought you should have specified that unit of time. Is it in one day or in 1 week or?
Exactly.
Iteration.
Iteration, yes.
Okay.
So when my sprint ended, what is my throughput?
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. And throughput becomes a measure that can be used in your sprint planning. Right. So it is not to be taken as a forecast. So which means like when my sprint ended, my throughput was like 30 items, which means my team can take 30 items in next sprint. No, it is just an indicator that your team is capable of delivering 30 items at the end of sprint. So considering your sprint length is of 2 weeks. So throughput becomes an important factor to or a measure to use when you're doing your sprint plannings. Does this help, team?
Yeah, so Vikram, you kind of put it in the light of velocity, because the velocity is let's say is a guide for the team, not necessarily how much they can do.
Yes.
So I just wanted to
pretty much the same. But this velocity is still, I mean, on the story points, committed versus delivered. Throughput is not actually velocity. A lot of people go there, but it is very different from velocity. Let me get back to you with a good example on that one. But we do get confused with throughput and velocity. Even I felt that it was like that, but in reality, it is not.
No, I was actually similar. I was just saying that, would you put it in the same light? Like, is it?
Yes.
I know it's not the same thing. Okay.
Yes. it would be in same lines. Thank you, Ade. Okay, then moving to the next metric, which we also talked about, was cycle time, right? So we spoke about throughput, work item age, and work in progress, and we also did touch up on cycle time. So can someone explain what cycle time is after listening to all this? What could it be? So cycle time is the time spent by an item here, and when it gets moved to done, right? At the end of, so work item age eventually becomes your cycle time at the end. So it is the amount of time spent, or when the item gets completed is when you get your cycle time of that item. So in our previous example, we talked of card A, and it spent around 11 days till it was in sign off, and once it got moved to done, its cycle time has become 11. So this helps us understand if we can reduce this cycle time of a certain card. But imagine all these items completing, right? And every item will have their own cycle times. So at the end of the day, we average it out, and we say, the average cycle time for this particular sprint had been like, maybe 4 days or 5 days or 6 days. Then what teams do is they try to set a limit here. They say, the average cycle time should not be more than maybe 5 days. So this is one of the norms that my team, my organization follows. They say average cycle time of any card or of a sprint shouldn't go more than 5 days. If you're going more than 5 days, then we take a look at that sprint, we analyze the items, we analyze what kind of work was done, and we try to identify why the cycle time went beyond 5 days. So this can also become a sort of service level expectation that you can set within your teams as well. Any questions here on cycle time, team? Okay, any questions on the measures? Any of the measures? Anybody wants to revisit any of the measures?
Just throughput. Can we go through that one more time?
Yes, sure. So throughput is the number of items completed within a set unit of time. So it could be 5 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, 6 hours. But again, how your organization looks at that unit of time differs. But the definition is number of items completed within a unit of time.
I had a question on the cycle time. Can you go over that, please?
Yes. So you want to understand cycle time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So let's close presentation for a moment so that I can. So say I'm taking this card here now. Okay. So it is day 1. My analysis team. Okay, I cannot take the card because I am at WIP limit. So I need to move something here. And then I sign off is pulling the work here. Testing is pulling the work here. Development is moving done. And I pick this. And then the analysis also is moving to done. And now my new card came in. Okay, so suppose this is some Z kind of work. Okay, so Z kind of work needs to happen, and analysis began. So this is day one, okay? Suppose this is day one and the work is happening, team is working, analyzing on it, and you ended your day, right? Which means your card has aged. The work item age of this card is 1. Okay. It is not completed yet. So it is aging. And now your work in progress will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? Your work in progress is 10. The age of card Z is 1. And your throughput is 4. Okay. So this is your day 1. Cycle time, we are trying to calculate for the card Z here. Is this clear now? And then I'll go forward.
Yes.
Okay. So day two began, and analysis is being done, and then the card is moved to done. Right. End of the day 2, we are still in analysis. So so this is still 2 days. Day has ended, right? My work in progress is still 10. My work item has now aged to 2. Okay. My throughput is still 4. All right. Now day 3, it comes to development. Okay. And in development, now it stays on for 1 more day here. So it is here 1 day. So it has aged for 3 days. So this becomes 3 at the end of day 3, right? And then similarly, suppose on day 4, the team pushes this card to done and testing team picks it. But sign off team cannot pick it because they are already working. So they suppose they finish the card and they're working on this card, and testing team on day 4 is also able to finish their testing miraculously, and they're just speeding up the process, and it has moved to sign off, right? And so this is still day 4, right? Within 1 day, it has moved from here till here, right? So which means my work item has aged to 4, but now my throughput has become 5, right? And work in progress are only 9 items now. Okay. And now on day, so yeah, 4 days. On 5th day, the team is working on sign off, and now they finish it and they push it to done. Okay. Which means now this card is completed its work, and it has taken 5 days to complete. Right, this card has taken 5 days to complete. It took 5 days to travel from analysis, development, testing, and done. So this 5 days is my cycle time of this card. Does this help?
Yes. Thank you.
Cool.
Time spent by an item until it's completed. I think that's just what it is.
Time spent between these, its work item age. Okay, which means if it was here in sign off, it has aged for 5 days. It is called work item age, and once it gets completed, it becomes cycle time.
And just to confirm that, so completed has to be when it's moved to done.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So because while it is on sign off, it might be done and waiting for the PM to accept or the manager to accept that item. So as soon as it leaves that sign off column, then you can calculate the cycle time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Let's continue.
Yeah. So at times I have seen cards move back from sign off as well, right? So that gives us an opportunity to ask the teams that, was your understanding not right when you moved it to sign off? What did the card not meet acceptance criteria? If they say it met, then we bring it to the person who was supposed to approve it or sign off, and we ask them like why it was moved back, and then it gives us an opportunity to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Great. So I think this is pretty much what Kanban is all about. It is about these 3 practices. Okay. You follow these 3 practices: defining and visualizing flow, actively managing items in a workflow and improving the workflow, and then you follow these metrics: work in progress, work item age, throughput, cycle time. You can now ask me, Vikram, are these the only measures that Kanban allows? No, Kanban has many more such measures. Cumulative flow diagram is one such measure which Kanban allows. But if you have these 4 measures, we are good to start implementing Kanban. The 3 principles and these 4 measures, we are good to start implementing.
Are we gonna get a video of this, because I lost out at the beginning? Can you help with the video?
So I think that's pretty much it. Any questions? Any Q&A? I mean, we can have some